There are serene lands, but deep within, nature churns with relentless ferocity. Wild boars are not just creatures of the wild, they are a silent threat to crops and human livelihoods. Across America, fields lie ravaged, barns stand in ruins, and forests are devastated by these animals. Their presence signals an unforgiving battle, and we will not surrender in this fight. Will our skills and experience be enough to reclaim control from these growling shadows? Join us to find the answer right now. Kicking off today's hunt, we venture into towering Rocky Mountains, where rugged terrain and dense thickets obscure visibility. After checking our equipment, organizing the team, and coordinating communication positions, the group begins moving along the steep slopes. From a distance, at the base of the cliff, I catch a glimpse of a wild boar lurking behind dry grass. Without hesitation, I get into position, raise my rifle, and prepare for the confrontation. Patiently waiting and aiming directly at the boar, I pull the trigger. With a single shot hitting its weak spot, the wild boar collapses, instantly unable to react. It seemed like everything ended with the first shot, but no, it was only the beginning. Suddenly, the rustling of dry leaves echoed. Another wild boar was charging toward me. Without hesitation, I took aim, and when the moment was right, I pulled the trigger. The bullet struck the boar's body, sending it tumbling down the cliff before it went completely still. Not far away, on another cliff, my teammate John was locked in a fierce struggle. 3 wild boars burst out from the bushes, fleeing in the opposite direction of his ambush. But in a split second, John fired 3 precise shots, taking down all 3 before they could escape. After hearing the decisive shots from John's direction, the team realized he had finished his pursuit. Without delay, Tony decided to navigate along the rocky slope and climb to a higher vantage point to survey the situation. From above, he spotted the dark silhouette of a wild boar weaving through the tall grass, charging straight toward him. Without hesitation, Tony raised his rifle and fired. 2 precise shots, and the boar collapsed right in front of him. Contrary to our stealth, the forest began to echo with sounds signaling another battle about to unfold. Among the trees, the rapid, forceful stomping on ground grew louder. Suddenly, a massive black shape darted past like lightning, a large, powerful wild boar charging like a whirlwind. I gripped my rifle tightly. Cold sweat trickled down my spine as heavy breaths filled the air. The boar weaved through the underbrush, disappearing and reappearing in flashes. After a few seconds, it fully emerged between the trees. Without hesitation, I pulled the trigger. The deafening shot shattered the silence. The beast collapsed, motionless. The forest fell quiet again, save for our ragged breathing. We ventured deeper into the forest, known to be a favorite haunt of wild boars. As expected, there was little time to catch our breath after the previous shot. Another boar appeared not far away, moving through a clearing in the woods. I took cover behind a small tree, raised my rifle, pressed it firmly against my cheek, steadied my breathing, and when the moment was perfect, I pulled the trigger without hesitation. The shot rang out, clear, sharp, and decisive. The beast staggered from the impact and collapsed motionless. Other boars scattered chaotically through the forest, and my teammates worked swiftly to take down as many as possible. At the same time, a few hundred meters away in the western part of the forest, my teammate was engaged in his own intense battle. Before him, A wild boar charged forward, its hooves crunching through the dry leaves, shattering the forest silence. His eyes locked onto its every move, the barrel of his rifle tracking the boar like a shadow. At the precise moment the animal stepped into his crosshairs, a decisive shot rang out. Without hesitation, the beast halted, then collapsed onto the leaf-covered forest floor. We decided to head back before dark carrying our trophies. Hunting wild boars isn't for sport, it's a mission to protect ourselves and the local community. There's no recklessness here, only experience, preparation, and the resolve of seasoned hunters. All activities strictly adhere to legal regulations and prioritize safety. Anatolia has a complex terrain with hills and valleys interspersed with swamps and swamps. Before that, we had the opportunity to hunt wild boars in the swampy area in the south of the Anatolian steppe. Because the terrain is swampy and muddy, we used a special vehicle, an airboat. This boat has an engine that is a giant fan that creates a great force to help the boat move on the dry swamp. Thanks to its fast speed, we were able to shoot down many harmful wild boars. However, the hunting trip in the Anatolian steppe brought us more drama and experience. The hunting trip lasted one day, starting before the sun had even appeared. After more than 1 hour of traveling from early morning, at 8 a.m., we encountered a herd of wild boars, all of which were adults. I raised the gun, my heart pounding. Amir whispered, "Shoot the leader or they will scatter." I took a deep breath, held it steady, and pulled the trigger. The explosion echoed through the mountains. A wild boar fell with a screech. The remaining herd was startled and scattered. That we followed the trail of the remaining wild boars, but because of the long distance, it was difficult for us to hit these wild boars. However, this herd of wild boars was probably exhausted and could not run far. We chased and shot down a few more wild boars. This increased the number of wild boars, which we shot down to nearly 10. As the sun rose, Amir and I decided to hike up to get a better look at the boar herd. Sure enough, Yusuf radioed that they had spotted a large herd on the slopes of the opposite bank. I aimed carefully, waiting for the moment when the boar stopped and fired. With a single shot hitting the weak spot, the boar was hit and rolled down the mountainside. In the afternoon, we decided to move south to ambush the wild boars. This area is where wild boars often pass through to get into the farm. Sure enough, it didn't take long to wait. The wild boars appeared. Not letting it escape, Amir quickly shot down the wild boar, knocking it down on the spot. Wow, this wild boar was huge. Can you guess how many kilograms it weighed? The larger the wild boar, the more aggressive it is, and the more destructive it is compared to other wild boars. Therefore, we must hunt down these adult wild boars at all costs. As you can see, the terrain in this mountainous area is rugged, with steep slopes that make it difficult for us to move. The wild boars are very fast, and the bushes provide easy shelter for them. Without observation skills, it is difficult to detect the wild boars. These wild boars relied on the rugged terrain and escaped our repeated shots. "Next time I won't let them escape," said the Emir. Amir and I moved down to a position near the ravine. The soil here is more humid, so the shrubs and grasses grow well. If you don't observe carefully, you might not be able to detect their location. At a distance of hundreds of meters, this wild boar was taken down. To do that, what do you need? Simply a scope attached to a gun. To hunt wild boars or any wild animal, we need a scope to make the shot more accurate. In the late afternoon, we moved to the foothills near the farm to finish the hunt. Hunting wild boars did not bring us any joy, but because of the surrounding farm, the wild boars needed to be exterminated. This trip is not just a hunt, it is a journey connecting people and mountains, instinct and skill, tradition, and modernity. Please like and subscribe to the channel to watch more videos. We arrived in the Ebro Valley in Spain early in the morning. This trip was not only to enjoy nature, but also with the specific goal of hunting wild boar. The locals told us that at the end of the valley there was a large herd of wild boar living among the dense forest and thorn bushes. They were especially aggressive during mating season and were also very difficult to approach. More importantly, the wild boars caused great damage to the farmers in the area. Therefore, we knew that something had to be done to control these wild boars. Henry and I were assigned to lie in ambush on the mountainside above the valley. We searched for boar tracks and identified the areas they frequented. Suddenly, there was a rustling sound up ahead, and a huge boar appeared. It seemed that this wild boar was not afraid at all. It stopped and watched us, but had no intention of running away. Only when we opened fire did it panic and run away, not letting the wild boar escape. We opened fire and decisively brought it down. Wild boars in the wild mountains are very aggressive. They can attack and seriously injure us if we don't hit their weapons. It's best to shoot them in the head or lungs to kill them with just one shot. In the valley, there are still houses of the community in the area. It is a village that is often disturbed by wild boars, so the residents here do not like this animal very much. They allow hunters to come to their area to hunt animals. It is undeniable that wild boars are very intelligent. They can sense the scent of hunters in the air. Therefore, we often move against the wind to prevent wild boars from detecting us. A huge wild boar appeared. When it discovered us, it tried to run away, but failed. A fatal shot killed it instantly. Seeing the giant pig fall, my emotions surged. Hunting wild boar in the Ebro is not an easy task because the terrain in this area is quite complex. Deep valleys are interspersed with high mountains and dense forests. If you do not understand the terrain here, you will easily lose your way. You see, the wild boars could hide under the rocks, blocking our view. Without the hunting dogs, it would have taken a lot of time and effort to find them. This herd of wild boars was trying to move up the cliff to escape, but this was our chance to kill them. The wild boars were hit and fell into the ravine. The other boars escaped and sneaked into the bushes. Every hunt in the Ebro Valley is dramatic and challenging, but if you respect nature and your prey, you will find meaning in every hunt. We continued to ambush the wild boars on the mountainside. They were showing signs of moving down the valley to drink water and forage. When the herd of wild boars appeared, Henry and I quickly grabbed our guns and fired. A loud bang tore through the silence, and the leader of the wild boars was shot down instantly. The others ran into the bushes. We continued to aim and shoot to kill a few more wild boars. There was a giant wild boar in the herd that ran away. I signaled to the other teammates to be ready if the wild boar appeared. Henry and I also chased and joined the ranks to surround this giant wild boar. When it appeared, a series of gunshots rang out. However, the wild boar still ran into the bushes to escape. Finally, we tracked down and finished off the wild boar on the spot. I've hunted in many places from the misty forests of Normandy to the vast cornfields of Iowa, but nowhere has stirred my emotions quite like the southwest of France, especially among the long-abandoned vineyards. This region has become a haven for wild boars, drawn by the abundant food supply. Of course, hunting wild boars here isn't about sport, it's about survival. Local farmers have lived in fear for years, as these animals have destroyed large portions of their farms. As the sun rose over the vast open fields, we spread out in different directions to track and hunt wild boars. Thanks to the flat terrain, we use motorbikes to move swiftly during the hunt. Suddenly, a massive wild boar appeared. Without time to think, we raised our rifles and fired. The boar dropped instantly after a single shot. My heart was pounding not out of fear, but from adrenaline and the thrill of victory. But we didn't stop there. We jumped into the buggy and raced across the green fields. The roar of the engine mixed with the grunts of fleeing boars. We quickly reloaded and fired again. Even though wild boars are incredibly fast, they were no match for the speed of the buggy or the precision of our bullets. Another wild boar appeared, and once again, we took careful aim and brought it down with precision. These boars were likely the very ones that had ravaged our farms. If they aren't dealt with, farmers won't be able to plant a single seed in these fields because the boars will destroy everything, even the seedlings, before they have a chance to grow. After our lunch break, we continued the hunt in the southern forest edge that afternoon, a place where green grasslands intertwine with dense shrubs. While lying in ambush, we heard rustling in the bushes. Then a wild boar emerged. We quickly raised our rifles and took it down with a precise shot. It dropped instantly from a clean, fatal hit. Every time a boar appeared, I fired without hesitation because the local farmers are counting on us. They've placed all their hopes in our hands, trusting that we'll help them eliminate these destructive creatures. Our journey continued throughout the afternoon. We knew that most of the wild boars were hiding in this area, only venturing out when searching for food, often near the surrounding farm. Within just a few hours, several wild boars appeared within my sights. We ventured deep into the mountains to hunt wild boars, a mix of excitement and tension filling the air as we entered their stronghold, eager to take down even more. We carefully examined the tracks they left on the ground, hoping to determine their direction of movement. Wasting no time, my team and I opened fire. We gathered our hard-earned trophies with satisfaction. By late afternoon, we had planned to wrap up the hunt. But then a report came through the radio. A massive herd of wild boars was tearing up a harvested cornfield. We rushed to the location and saw the boars charging out from the bushes. One by one, we took them down, determined not to let a single one escape. Hunting wild boars demands patience and persistence. You can't give up. And this is our result. One massive wild boar. All the wild boars we hunted were gathered in one spot and loaded onto the truck. Once everything was secured, we drove back to the gathering camp where everyone shared food, drinks, and plenty of laughter. I could genuinely feel the warmth and friendliness of the group. This hunting trip in the southwest of France taught me far more than I expected, not just about shooting techniques, but about patience, observation, the rhythm of the wild, and the culture of the region. I never imagined that one day I would set foot in the Brandenburg region of eastern Germany to follow professional hunters in pursuit of wild boars that were destroying crops. This is not simply a recreational hunt, but a necessary task to protect the habitat and safety of the countryside in the region. If left unchecked, this destructive invasive species could grow into the millions and make life miserable for all German farmers. The trip started early in the morning. The autumn weather was still chilly. Dozens of hunters were present at the assembly point to assign tasks. The group divided into small groups, each group in charge of a different area. Just moving on the road to the hunting spot, we discovered a rather large wild boar. It must have been here since early morning to feed. Heinz, with his vast experience, brought it down with an accurate shot. Continuing up the hill, Heinz gave a slight signal to stop. A small rustling sound was heard, and then I saw a full-grown boar, not just one, but a whole herd. Martin raised his gun and gestured for readiness. In a split second, the shot rang out, the largest boar fell, and the others scattered. We continued to move and look for traces of wild boar. On the way, Mr. Heinz told me about the situation of wild boar in the area. They can destroy acres of corn and rye in a season. So these hunts are to protect the farmer's property. Heinz carefully observed every movement of the wild boar in the bushes. When one appeared in his sights, he would signal us to shoot. With the guidance of the experienced hunter, we learned a lot. Heinz also said that in hunting, priority should be given to adult wild boars, as they are extremely destructive. We chose a high position with good visibility and could observe every movement of the wild boars. With this favorable position, we could easily shoot down the wild boars if they appeared. Focus, the wild boar is very close to us, Heinz said after listening carefully. As soon as he finished speaking, a huge wild boar rushed out, pursued by hunting dogs. Without thinking, Martin and I opened fire, and the shot brought the wild boar down immediately. Be careful, because wild boars can attack us in any situation, especially when they are panicking. Heinz's words were deeply imprinted in my mind as a warning to let me know how dangerous wild boars are. In the afternoon, we would coordinate our hunting tactics with the dogs working together to herd the wild boars, forcing them to run towards the gunmen who were waiting in ambush. My heart beat fast as I heard dogs barking, wild boars jumping out of the bushes, gunshots rang out, and the giant boar fell. The scene lasted less than a minute, but was enough to shock me. The hunting dogs herded quite a number of wild boars. We were surprised and did not expect there to be so many. The number of wild boars was so large that we shot them nonstop, resulting in dozens of them being killed. Despite their speed, Wild boars are not immune to being killed. The pigs are collected and transported back to the village, where they are sold to local processors. Wild boars are considered a delicacy in Germany in some regions. Our wild boar hunting trip in Germany has come to an end. Thank you all for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos.